Commander Zara Martinez sat in the defendant's chair, staring at a panel of stone-faced military officials who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. The formal charges scrolled across the holographic display behind her: willful disregard of direct orders, unauthorized tactical deviation, endangering simulated personnel, and general conduct unbecoming of a future officer. "Let me get this straight," Zara said, leaning back in her chair with the kind of confidence that made admirals nervous. "You're throwing me out because I won?" Admiral Hendricks, head of the disciplinary board, cleared his throat. "Cadet Martinez, you were explicitly ordered to maintain defensive positions during the Kobayashi Maru scenario. Instead what did you call it? Went full mongoose on their snake-like formation? It worked, didn't it?" "That's not the point." Commander Walsh slammed his hand on the table. "You sent 3 squadrons into what should have been a suicide run, ignored every tactical protocol we've taught you, and somehow turned a no-win scenario into a complete victory. It's brilliant," Zara offered helpfully. "Insane," Walsh finished. Admiral Hendricks rubbed his temples. "Cadet Martinez, military operations depend on predictability, chain of command, and following established protocols. What you did was chaos. Sometimes chaos wins wars, sir. And sometimes it gets everyone killed." Hendricks stood up. "The Galactic Naval Academy has trained officers for 3 centuries using proven methods. We don't need loose cannons who think they know better than military doctrine." Zara shrugged. "Your loss." 3 hours later, she was officially expelled. Her belongings fit in 2 duffel bags, and her pride fit in a much smaller container. As she walked past the memorial wall listing Academy heroes, she muttered, "Bet half these guys broke a rule or 2 when it mattered." 6 months later, Commander Zara Crash Martinez was hauling fertilizer to agricultural colonies in a ship held together by determination and industrial-grade adhesive. Every morning, she woke up in a cramped bunk, looked at her Academy medals gathering dust, and reminded herself that at least she was right. Even if being right didn't pay the bills. 3 years into Zara's exile, the universe decided to prove her point in the worst possible way. The hegemony came without warning, dropping out of hyperspace like a cosmic plague. Their ships were sleek, efficient, and absolutely terrifying in their mathematical precision. Within 48 hours, they'd swept through the outer colonies like a scythe through wheat, leaving behind nothing but radio silence and debris fields. Admiral Thompson paced the command center of Earth's primary defense station, watching his carefully planned counterattacks fail with clockwork regularity. Every maneuver, every tactical formation, every brilliant strategic gambit was anticipated, countered, and utterly demolished before his ships could even complete their approach vectors. "Sir," his aide reported with the tone of someone delivering a death sentence, "the 4th Fleet attempted the Coringal pincer movement. The hegemony ships adjusted formation before our vessels reached attack position. We lost 2 cruisers and a destroyer." Thompson stared at the tactical display showing red X marks where his ships used to be. "How are they doing this?" "Intelligence suggests they're using predictive battle algorithms," came the reply from Commander Stevens, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past week. "They're analyzing our tactical doctrine and countering our moves before we make them." "That's impossible." "No, sir, that's just really unfair." Thompson walked to the window overlooking Earth's blue marble surface, wondering how long before those pristine clouds were full of debris. "So they've studied our playbook." "Every page, sir. Classical Academy tactics, advanced strategic protocols, even the experimental maneuvers from the Henderson archive. They know what we're going to do before we do it." The room fell silent except for the hum of computers calculating increasingly desperate scenarios. Finally, some junior officer with nothing left to lose spoke up. "What about unorthodox approaches, sir?" Thompson turned around. "Meaning?" "Well, sir, if they've studied our standard tactics, maybe we need non-standard ones. Unpredictable strategies. Something outside the Academy playbook. Stephen snorted. Like what? Random movements? Tactical chaos? That's not military doctrine, that's just. He trailed off as Thompson's expression changed. Sir? Stevens asked nervously. Thompson was quiet for a long moment, remembering a certain cadet who'd turned chaos into victory. A cadet who'd been expelled for refusing to follow the very doctrine that was now getting them all killed. Get me personnel files, he said slowly. Disciplinary records. Anyone who's been expelled or court-martialed for tactical creativity. Sir? Intention. Remio. Sometimes the best solutions come from the worst students. 20 minutes later, Thompson stared at a file photo of Zara Martinez, currently listed as an independent freight operator somewhere in the Kepler sector. Her disciplinary record read like a manual on how not to conduct military operations. It was perfect. Zara was elbowed deep in her ship's engine compartment, cursing at a plasma coupling that had apparently decided to die out of spite when her communication array crackled to life. This is Admiral Thompson of Earth Defense Command. I need to speak with Commander Zara Martinez. Zara hit her head on a low-hanging pipe. Oh, and it's just Martinez now, thanks to you people. She crawled out of the engine compartment, wiping grease off her hands. Let me guess, you need someone to haul ammunition to the front lines? Actually, we need you to command the front lines. Zara laughed so hard she started coughing. Oh, that's rich. Let me get this straight, Admiral. 3 years ago, you kicked me out for being unpredictable and dangerous. Now you want me back because unpredictable and dangerous is exactly what we need. The laughter died in her throat. You're serious. The hegemony is wiping us out, Martinez. Come on. They know every move we're going to make before we make it. Every academy-trained officer, every by-the-book strategy, every regulation maneuver gets countered instantly. Zara sat down heavily in her pilot's chair. So now you want the crazy person. I want the person who sees solutions everyone else misses. Flattery will get you nowhere, Thompson. She paused. But I'm listening. Thompson's voice carried the weight of desperation. We're losing, Martinez. Badly. The outer colonies are gone, the middle systems are evacuating, and if we don't find an answer soon, Earth becomes a footnote in galactic history. And you think I'm the answer? I think you're the only person who's ever made me question everything I thought I knew about tactics. Zara stared out her ship's viewports at the endless stars. I'll do it, but I have conditions. Name them. Complete tactical autonomy. No oversight, no second guessing, no but the regulations say nonsense. And I want my old training squad. Martinez, your old squad was scattered after the expulsion incident. Then unscatter them. Rex Patterson and Maya Kim. I want them, or you can find someone else to save humanity. Thompson was quiet for a long moment. Patterson was discharged for excessive use of explosives in non-combat situations. He's creative. Kim was transferred to communications after she hacked the Academy's mainframe to change everyone's grades to smiley faces. She's thorough. Martinez, these people are. Exactly what you need, Zara finished. Thompson, you called me because normal isn't working. Don't start crying now when I give you abnormal. Another pause. Fine. Full autonomy and your squad. But Martinez? Yeah? Yeah? If this doesn't work, we're all dead anyway, so try not to get us killed faster. Zara grinned for the first time in 3 years. Admiral, when have I ever let you down? Do you want the chronological list or the alphabetical one? Fair point. Send me the coordinates. And Thompson? Tell the Academy eggheads to start taking notes. They're about to learn why I got expelled. The war room at Earth Defense Command had seen better days. The holographic display showed red zones spreading across human space like a rash, while exhausted officers stared at tactical projections with the glazed expressions of people who'd run out of both ideas and coffee. Zara walked in wearing a freight hauler's jumpsuit and boots that had seen more action than most of the assembled officers. Behind her came Rex Boom Patterson, built like a linebacker and grinning like someone who'd just been told Christmas came early, and Maya Ghost. Kim, who looked like she was trying to disappear into her oversized jacket. "Well," Zara announced to the room, "this is depressing." Admiral Thompson gestured to the display. "These are our latest engagement reports. Every traditional formation, every classical maneuver gets you killed." "Yes, I heard." Zara walked up to the tactical display, studying the battle footage with the focus of a predator examining prey. "Show me the hegemony ship movements." The display shifted to show alien formations moving with mechanical precision, countering human tactics with the efficiency of a computer program, which, Zara realized, is probably exactly what it was. "They're fighting like machines," she said after watching 3 separate battles end in human defeats. "Perfect coordination, flawless execution, no wasted movement." "That's what makes them so dangerous," Commander Stevens offered. "No," Zara said, turning to face the room. "That's what makes them predictable." The room erupted in protests, but Zara held up a hand. "Listen, you Academy graduates are fighting like you're still taking exams. Textbook formations, regulation responses, everything neat and tidy and exactly like the manual says it should be." She pointed at the display. "The hegemony studied your manual. They know what page you're on before you do. But here's the thing about manuals," she grinned. "They don't cover everything." Rex laughed. "Oh, this is going to be good." Thompson rubbed his forehead. "Martinez, what exactly are you proposing?" "Controlled chaos," Zara said simply. "We stop fighting like a military and start fighting like humans." "That makes no sense," Stevens protested. "It makes perfect sense," Zara shot back. "Maya, tell them about the Academy mainframe hack." Maya squeaked and tried to hide behind Rex, who patted her shoulder encouragingly. In a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "I didn't plan it. The security was just there, so I poked it. And then it opened up. And then I kind of improvised." "Improvised?" Zara repeated. "Not following a plan, not using established protocols, just winging it based on what felt right in the moment." She turned back to the room. "That's what we're going to do. Instead of coordinated fleet movements, we're going to use controlled disorder. Ships break formation when they feel like it. Pilots follow their instincts instead of orders. We turn military precision into creative chaos." The silence in the room was deafening. Finally, Thompson spoke. "You want our fleet to wing it?" "I want our fleet to be human," Zara corrected. "Unpredictable, irrational, creative, and completely impossible to program against." Stevens was shaking his head. "This is insane." "This is exactly what it needs to be," Zara said. "Rex, remember the Kobayashi Maru sim?" Rex's grin got wider. "You mean when you told us to forget everything we'd learned and just blow stuff up?" "And what happened?" "We won in 12 minutes. Zara spread her hands. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the new battle doctrine. If we don't know what we're doing, how can they predict it?" Thompson stared at her for a long moment. "Martinez, you're talking about deliberately removing all tactical discipline from our forces." "I'm talking about remembering that the best part of being human is that we're all a little bit crazy." She walked to the viewport, showing Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. "Admiral, your way isn't working. The Academy way isn't working. Maybe it's time to try the Martinez way." "And if you're wrong?" Zara turned back with a smile that was equal parts confidence and madness. Then we'll go down swinging instead of standing at attention. The final engagement began at 0800 hours Earth Standard Time, just above the lunar surface where humanity's last stand would either become its finest hour or its final epitaph. Zara stood on the bridge of the hastily recommissioned destroyer Defiant, watching the hegemony fleet approach with their usual mechanical precision. "All ships, this is Admiral Martinez," she said into the comm. "Remember, we're not following any plan because we don't have a plan. Trust your instincts, break every rule you've ever learned, and for the love of all that's holy, try not to ram each other." "Unless it seems like a good idea," Rex added from the weapons station. "Unless it seems like a good idea," Zara agreed. The hegemony fleet moved into attack formation, their ships arranging themselves in a perfect geometric pattern designed to counter the anticipated human response. What they got instead was the military equivalent of a bar fight. Human ships scattered in all directions like startled fish. Some dove toward the lunar surface, others climbed toward open space, and a few started spinning for no apparent reason other than it seemed fun. The hegemony's predictive algorithms immediately began calculating intercept courses based on standard evasive maneuvers. They were still calculating when the first human ship opened fire while flying upside down. "What are they doing?" came the panicked voice of Captain Morris from the cruiser Resolute. "Whatever feels right," Zara shouted back, watching the hegemony formation start to wobble as their computers struggled to analyze the chaos. "Maya, can you get into their communications?" Maya, who had somehow turned her entire console into what looked like a DJ mixing board, nodded frantically. "Already in. They're trying to update their tactical algorithms in real time. Their computers are basically having nervous breakdowns." On the main screen, the hegemony ships began moving erratically as their command systems fought to process the impossible data streaming from the human fleet. A destroyer started firing at empty space because its targeting computer insisted that's where a human ship should be based on mathematical projections. "Rex," Zara called out, "how are we doing on explosions?" "Explosions are good," Rex replied happily, launching missiles that curved in spirals instead of straight lines because he'd decided conventional trajectories were boring. "Their shields are designed to deflect logical attacks." One of the human frigates, piloted by a former Academy washout named Jenkins, decided to ram his ship directly into the hegemony flagship while screaming something about his student loans. The alien ship's defensive systems, programmed to counter coordinated assault patterns, completely ignored what they classified as a statistically impossible suicide run. Jenkins survived the impact somehow and spent the next 10 minutes gleefully firing at enemy ships from inside their own formation. "This is insane." Thompson's voice crackled over the comm from the command station. "It's working, but it's completely insane." "Maya," Zara said, "please tell me you have something special for their communications array." Maya's grin was visible even from behind her oversized headset. "Oh, I've got something special." Her fingers flew across her improvised controls, and suddenly every hegemony ship in the area began broadcasting Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up" at maximum volume across all frequencies. The effect was immediate and devastating. Hegemony ships began firing on each other, their crews apparently driven to madness by the ancient human meme weapon. Some ships started retreating, others began flying in circles, and at least one appeared to be attempting to ram itself into the moon just to make the music stop. "You rickrolled an entire alien fleet," Zara said in amazement. "I rickrolled their entire civilization," Maya corrected proudly. "It's broadcasting on their emergency frequencies. Every hegemony ship in this sector is hearing it." Rex whooped with joy as another enemy cruiser exploded after its crew apparently mutinied against their own navigation system. "This is the best battle ever." The tide had turned completely. Human ships, freed from the constraints of military doctrine, fought with the creative chaos that had made them the galaxy's most unpredictable species. They used tactics that had never been tried because they'd never been thought of, executed maneuvers that existed only in the moment of their creation, and generally proved that sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy at all. When the hegemony fleet finally retreated, their ships limping away while still broadcasting Rick Astley, the human casualties were surprisingly light. Most of the damage had been self-inflicted by alien ships trying to process tactical data that didn't make sense. "All ships, this is Admiral Martinez," Zara announced. "Congratulations, everyone. You just saved humanity by being gloriously, magnificently human." 6 months later, Admiral Zara Martinez stood in front of a lecture hall full of nervous Academy cadets, her uniform crisp and her medals gleaming, but her smile still carrying that hint of controlled chaos that had terrified superior officers for years. "Good morning, future defenders of humanity," she began, watching young faces stare back at her with the kind of awe usually reserved for religious experiences. "Welcome to Advanced Tactical Dysfunction, now a mandatory course for all graduating officers." A cadet in the front row raised her hand. "Admiral, is it true you saved Earth by ignoring every rule in the Academy handbook?" "Not every rule," Zara corrected. "I followed the most important one, win." She clicked a remote, and the holographic display showed footage from the Battle of Luna, human ships moving in patterns that made geometry professors weep. "The hegemony studied our tactics for years, learned our strategies, predicted our every move. They prepared for everything except the one thing that makes us human." "What's that, Admiral?" another cadet asked. "We're all a little bit insane," Zara said with pride. "And sometimes that's exactly what the universe needs." She walked between the rows of seats, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned experience. "Now, I need you all to understand something very important. This course isn't about abandoning discipline or ignoring chain of command. It's about learning when to color outside the lines." The display shifted to show tactical scenarios. "You'll study chaos theory, improvisation techniques, and what we call constructive insubordination. You'll learn when to follow orders and when to follow your instincts." A cadet raised her hand tentatively. "Admiral, how do we know when to break protocol?" Zara paused, remembering her own expulsion hearing, the years of exile, and the moment when everything changed. "You'll know," she said simply. "Trust me, when the moment comes, you'll know." She returned to the podium, looking out at the faces of humanity's future defenders. 3 years ago, I was thrown out of this academy for doing exactly what I'm about to teach you. The irony isn't lost on me. Rex Patterson, now Colonel Patterson and guest instructor, poked his head through the door. "Admiral, we're ready for the practical demonstration." "Excellent." Zara turned back to her students. "Today, you're going to run the Kobayashi Maru scenario. But here's the twist. I want you to forget everything you've learned about tactical doctrine and just improvise." The cadets looked terrified. "Remember," Zara continued, heading for the door, "the enemy will expect you to be logical, disciplined, and predictable. Disappoint them." As she left the lecture hall, she could hear excited chatter breaking out among the students. Through the window, she watched Maya Kim setting up communication arrays that would probably violate several intergalactic treaties by the end of the day. Admiral Thompson appeared beside her, shaking his head with a mixture of admiration and fear. "You know, Martinez, I'm still not entirely convinced this isn't all just an elaborate way to get revenge on the Academy system." Zara grinned, the same expression that had gotten her expelled and eventually saved humanity. "Thompson, the best revenge is proving everyone wrong while saving the galaxy. And if your students take this too far, then they'll be ready for whatever comes next," she said, watching her cadets file into the simulation chamber with expressions of determined mischief. "Because the universe is a crazy place, Admiral. Sometimes it takes crazy people to keep it safe." She headed toward her office, where a stack of reports waited detailing how various alien species were now updating their own military doctrines to include human unpredictability factors. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the best protocol is to throw protocol out the airlock. After all, she'd gotten expelled for breaking the rules, but she'd also saved humanity. And in the end, that was a pretty good trade.